everybody? It's Zane with Sailing Views, and today I brought to you maybe not the most well-known sailor, but definitely everyone in the last couple of years knows her name and knows exactly who she is. Now, this is Marlene Plumley with Arundel Diving Services. If you have a J70 or Melges 24, Melges 32, you have seen her. She is pretty much everywhere, cleaning bottoms, taking care of people. She has kind of become a regatta boat mother. So she's getting pretty famous for that. So if this is who she is, and I'm going to start asking her questions as soon as I get my cat out of the way. Okay. Okay. So how are you doing, Marlene?
Hi, Zane. I'm doing great.
All right. Sorry about that. My cat decided he wanted to sit down on the keyboard, and I know that's going to cause problems. Okay. So let's basically start with all the standard questions. How'd you get into this? How'd you get into sailing? Um, what? I know your path is a little different than most, so go with it.
Yeah. So I got into sailing a lot later than everybody else. I got into sailing about 6 years ago when one of my customers said, "Hey, we're short on crew. Would you like to go out with us for Wednesday night sailing?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So
Yeah.
trial by fire, and fortunately, I've been able to get on the boat, several other boats, ever since then.
All right.
Uh,
So it basically all came from diving. Now, how did you get into diving?
I learned to dive when I was in the Air Force, and then fast forward to living on a 57-foot Chris Craft. We um, went to take a trip to New York City, and I decided to jump overboard to clean the running gear. And I came up, there were 8 people standing on the dock saying, "Can you do that to my boat?" And that's the very basic beginnings to my business in 2007.
Wow. So it just started with jumping in to help out, and poof, next thing you know,
Yep.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
So
I was like 400 bucks richer, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
wow,
this might work. Okay,
this might
so
work.
how many boats are you doing now on your average regatta?
So it depends on the length. So assuming that I'm at a J70 event or a Melges 24 event, my average load is about 20 boats, maybe 25 at the very most.
Mhm.
And that's starting about um, 3 or so hours before the preparatory signal of the first race.
Okay, that's a lot of boats. Uh, Now, have you found anything strange on any boats while you've been down there cleaning? Tons of them. Have you gone down there and one Monday morning or Saturday morning and found like a plastic bag wrapped around a keel or anything really strange like that?
Um, no, what I typically see, and I know you wanted this glamorous answer, but not really. Um, Typically, what I see every single morning under a boat is what's called gas film. It's an eighth inch thick transparent bioslime layer. Um, Everybody is taught in science class how important the trees and green leafy save the rainforests it is, but they don't tell us that 48% of the air we breathe comes from our water. And so, us landlubbers, when we inhale, we're assuming that the air we need, or the oxygen we need from the air, is going to be available when we take a breath in. But you don't see proof other than that photosynthesis occurs. So I get to see photosynthesis from a science standpoint under the boats every single morning. So I get to see the true reason why I do what I do. I remove this gas film from under the boats every morning. And typically, I will see under every boat kelp in the keel box. That's pretty much standard industry. So aside from removing the slime, the biggest reason why I do what I do is that insurance policy that your boat is ready to go. There's nothing under it. There's nothing in the keel box to slow you down.
I
So
got you.
that's my value proposition to my teams. That's myself.
I gotcha. Well, that's a good sell. Um, okay. Now, wow, I had a question. I kind of forgot it, so it's going to change this interview up a little bit. Okay.
Oh,
So I know that you have become kind of a boat mother for people. Now, what does that entail? Because I know we've talked about you kind of assuming that role. What do you do? Tell me about it. Tell everybody else about it.
so um, role of boat mom is dependent upon the needs of the teams. I have some teams that hire me to um, cook and make sure that when they check out of the Airbnb that the house is clean or clean-ish. So it's everything between making sure that the team has lunch, waters, Gatorades for the course, um, and sometimes it means going to the airport, picking people up. It all depends upon what the team needs. And typically, well, it depends on what the needs are, depends on how many teams I can serve. If
Yeah.
it's simply picking up a bunch of waters and Gatorades and lunches for people, then I can serve several teams. If it's cook dinner for us, then I can only be one place at a time.
Right.
So
Okay. Well, I tell you, hearing that you clean up at the Airbnbs, I think I know a couple teams that could instantly use you. I know I could. um,
okay.
okay. So now, for those of y'all that don't know, Marlene and I met, and she was the basically nationwide regional rep of Eel Snot. All right. I'm not exactly sure what her title was, but uh, when I'd gotten in touch with the guy, the owner of Eel Snot, I'd been dealing with him, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, you've got to talk to Marlene." I'm like, "Who's Marlene?" He's like, "Here you go. Here's her number. Figure it out. I'll get with you later." So that's how I got to know her. So tell me about some of the Eel Snot stories. You know.
Ah,
Now
well,
is that do you still like that product? I mean, tell me your thoughts about that. Do you use it?
so I do, but it depends on the application. It is stellar on Baltic and BC offshore.
Hmm.
Not so much on uh, dry sailed, like epoxy coat
Hmm.
bottoms. Just and um, it is not the easiest to work with, so you have to really get your technique down. Um, a, there's not really application instructions that come with the product. So what I have learned is to take a screwdriver and stir it up really good to make it the consistency of cake icing.
Yeah.
And then I take like fingerfuls and dab it on the hull, and then take a power buffer and buff it in.
Yeah.
This is all contingent upon a nice warm day.
Yeah.
Cold days, like in the 50s or below, don't even bother.
Yeah. Well,
it's
yeah.
not
See.
the easiest to work with, but especially if you can, for like Key West Race Week, I had several of my teams use that in 2017. For an event that you have to stay in the water for the entire weekend, and they don't allow divers, it's really, you're not going to get away from that gas film like I mentioned earlier. It's always going to happen. But this is the next best thing to a diver when divers are restricted.
Yeah. Now, I know you said applying this stuff is difficult, and trust me, I have had people that have worked with me on boats, right next to me and watched me apply it, and then they go and help out someone else and do it all wrong. And the trick with that stuff is just one finger dab for me does like a quarter of the whole boat. One little baby finger dab, and I smear that out and you go as thin as possible. All right, but let's get away from that subject.
Well, I do want to point out, so my best application of that was, I think it was the 2016 J30 NAs or
Mm-hmm.
Worlds or something like that. It was whichever of those two events was here in Annapolis. The New Orleans team, Zephyr, didn't bring their Zephyr to Annapolis. They chartered a local boat called Mondial. And Mondial, a week before, was pulled out. All of the blisters were ground out, and it was put back in the water. No new bottom paint. It was just, it looked like it had measles.
Yeah.
And I was teaching at Anne Arundel Community College a night class, and Bob Rutch on Bebop, another J30, said, the team that you really want on your roster is Zephyr. And I get this phone call while I'm in class. I said, guys, we got to take a 10-minute recess. I got to take this call. And it was Team Zephyr. So I asked, would you like me to put eel snot on the bottom of your boat? You can do that? Absolutely. And what was exciting was I got to dive the boat a month later. And it was, the quote that I had put on Facebook was, it's as if I had cleaned it yesterday.
Yeah.
So, underwater application is not the most ideal, but it did work great on Baltic, especially for this event.
Yeah, I know this stuff is great. I live by it. And I was in a video yesterday, I think, with the Quantum Group, and listening to their guys talking about how they're lubing their shrouds and what they're using. And I wasn't speaking, so I didn't jump in, but I use that stuff on my turnbuckles. It lasts forever, and they're just buttery smooth. And it doesn't matter how much load you put on, they still spin. It's such a great lubricant.
And that's the great point, because so Eel Snot also makes a tactical gun lube, which I use on all of the slides. Anywhere you need a slide on or metal on metal. So I sail with on a J22 Rocinante, and I'm the bow girl, and that's one of my jobs, is to lubricate the jaws on the spin pole, and that's all I use.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's change the subject away from Eel Snot, because I think we've both given him way too much time already. I love you, Toby, but anyway. So you were speaking about using it tactical lube on guns. What kind of guns are you carrying these days? Because I know you are always showing me targets and new guns and fun stuff. What have you got these days?
So when I delivered Rum Runner to you,
yeah.
I was actually carrying a 9mm. It was a Glock 43.
Okay.
So that's my favorite one.
All right. You been shooting lately?
Yes.
Of course. Okay. Of course. Of course. All right. So let's get into some sailing things. What's your favorite regatta, or what's one that you've had a really good time at?
Oh, well, of course, the last Key West Race Week in 2017. I have a lot of them. I love the Nude Regatta Network. Charleston Race Week has to be my right up there in the top 5 regattas.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and Bacardi Cup is ranked right up there as well.
Yeah. I love all of those races, but I'm also I tend to get a little lazy, and the more logistical nightmares they are, the harder for me it is.
Miami does present a little bit of a challenge as far as where to leave the boat, especially between the events.
Yeah. Yep. Once you're in the water, it's not bad because you can walk from every site. But parking's a difficult. Trailer, there's just a lot of issues with that. But it's a big city; you can't do anything about it. Okay, so what's one of the worst trips you've had on a boat?
Worst trips on a boat?
Yeah. And now you kind of dodged that last question. I was asking for your greatest regatta, your best event, something you really enjoyed.
Oh, my best event, I would say hands down would be Charleston Race Week.
Okay.
I also have to say that that is probably one of my most challenging. Actually, it's not probably, it is the most challenging regatta for a diver
I can
because
imagine.
you
Yeah.
have three major waterways converging upon each other, and it is, if you don't, if the tide changes are not in your favor, it can be incredibly, it's a drift dive, really.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly difficult. And if you aren't, if you don't have some kind of a safety line or something like that in full tidal mode,
Yeah.
you can, they have two major piers, Pier A, which is the breakwater, and then the carrier pier. If you aren't careful, you'll get swept under that dock. And fortunately, knock on wood, I haven't had any issues with that, but it very, very easily can happen.
Yep. Okay, so what's one of your worst regattas or worst events that you've been to?
Um, I can't really say that I have any worst events. Um, an event is what you make it, and um, I can't really honestly say that I've had a bad event.
That is incredible. You see my life. You know what I go through. I go through
Right, right. Well,
turmoil every time I
and
turn around.
you know what makes an exciting event for me is if I actually get to get on a boat and serve the team. So this one, recognize that one.
Uh huh.
Mike Spurgeon had a crew member call in sick. and
Hey, I
and
got the
couldn't make
coronavirus
the
over with
carnival.
early. I got that flu bug over with early. So
Uh-huh.
uh-huh.
But
So how was
but
that? Did you have fun on that?
I, I had a blast. Honestly, that was every time that I'm on a Melges 24, I keep saying this is such a more comfortable ride than all the other boats that I've been on.
Yeah.
Um, so um,
Uh,
yep, have a lot of fun on that boat.
Yep. I have to say it's my favorite boat. Is it? I'd assume you'd say that. Is that your favorite boat, or do you have another favorite?
Um, oh, I have to say that I have equally, well, the one that I got to do a world championship on was, and where I really did my first serious sailing was on a J22.
Hmm.
Um, any of those people from Annapolis know Kristen Berry, and he took on a wild card. So Kristen Berry introduced me to Kevin Kenny, and we sailed on Rocinante, starting in the spring event, or for this Annapolis spring event. And then that was my introduction to the J22, and then went on to do the J22 Worlds.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and
Well.
we got 26th in that event,
Okay.
so not too bad for a first time.
No. So speaking of Annapolis, Annapolis is one of those hubs of sailing. There's so many just incredible, incredibly talented sailors up there. Uh, what's that like to try to learn under that? I mean, is it a friendly, open environment? Is it a little standoffish? Is it just, what's it like having to race against, a lot of those names are just household superstars. What's that like, especially being new?
I I honestly think getting into sailing, learning sailing, Annapolis is probably the best place to do so. Um, you really don't have the big egos, especially for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night racing. Um, everybody is really civil for the most part. um, it's um, it is really a um, great place to both learn sailing and also to be competitive.
Yeah. I've sailed up there a couple times, and I'm always blown away that just the depth factor you have and how many people show up on y'all's. I guess it's just Wednesday nights y'all have. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just amazing how many boats show up there.
Well,
Uh,
I think on average we have 5 or 6 J111s on the
yeah,
starting line. We have 10-ish J30s. Um, you have the Harbor 20s, and several of the other smaller. Oh, we have probably one of the biggest J105 classes right here in Annapolis as well. I think we have between 7 to 10 J105s on the starting line as well.
yeah. Okay. So, being a female, what are your thoughts on women sailing? How the U.S. sailing's handling it, how you perceive it. What are your thoughts on it?
Oi, that is really a great question. I think as time progresses and we get more highly competitive women on the race course, um, I think um, I think there's a great mentoring opportunity. Um, Unfortunately, if I were to guess, just based upon my experiences at regattas in like the J70 events, I would say maybe 10% are women at best. So um, we're smaller and lighter in a lot of cases, which gives opportunity to adding that fifth crew member,
Hmm.
um, when typically most people for having to make weight can only
Yeah,
carry four. So
right.
um, I really don't have a good answer for that, just because I'm not mainstream in um, sailing isn't my job. I'm hashtag just the diver. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
But
I really don't have a good answer for that.
yeah. Well, like I say, you call yourself just a diver, but I mean, I see you everywhere, and I know that you get to see everything, and I trust me, we're in touch a lot, so I know that you travel a lot more than I do, and that sometimes I feel like that's all I do. So, how do you actually handle the travel and the boyfriend back home, the kids, how do you handle all that?
Um, well, they do make these things called airplanes.
Uh huh.
Uh, um, uh, my J70s take me south for the winter, so I'm pretty much down in Florida from the first weekend of December through Bacardi Cup. Um, um, I when I have a break, I make flights home.
Yeah.
You do what you got to do.
Okay. You're really giving me some softball answers here. I was waiting for something good. All right. Well, let's go into something. How do I get new people into sailing? Come up with something exciting for me. Come on, Marlene.
Sorry,
Reach through.
ask that question again. I didn't hear it right.
How do you get new people sailing?
Oh, um, well, it's networking. If so, up here in Annapolis, we have Spin Sheet Magazine. They do a lot of amazing networking opportunities. They do meet the crew, or um, crew parties, where they specifically introduce new sailors to potential teams.
Hmm.
Um, for me, my business is in the marine industry. I have a highly visible job, and exactly how Bob Rutch and Bob Putnam did 6 years ago. Hey, we're short a crew member. You want to come sailing with us? Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about it, but put me on the boat.
I got you. All right. So, who are some influential people in your sailing that have actually gotten you in, or have already asked this question? People have
No, you
gotten you in the
haven't.
boat and taught you, things. Who's helped you a lot?
Ah, um, So I'm a small town girl. I'm here from Annapolis. I really love to give the kudos to the people who really stuck their neck out and said, let's give her a try. So that would definitely be the former J World directors, Kristen Berry, Ian Moriarty, and Dave Mannheimer. Dave is still at J World, and Kevin Kenny. Those are the Kristen, Ian, and Kevin are really my staples that I sail with, but Bob Rudge, Bob Putnam, Steve Carton, and then you have the bigger traveling teams. So I do have to give the kudos to Dave Ullman, Brian Keene, and Ora Gugliari, and you.
Yay! I get a shout out. All right. Um, all right. Well, we're getting closer. What's your best role on a boat? When you're actually on a
Oh,
boat, what's your job? Bow?
back.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
How did you get
yeah.
into the bow, and why do you like it so much?
Well, the J-22 on Rocinante was my first formal. That's my position. That's how I got into that, and then um, yeah, that's my favorite role. That's the role I prefer to have.
All right. Okay. You know, you have this four deck union people that live and die for bow. And some of them are pretty nuts. In my day, I've sailed with a bunch of guys that lived it, breathed it. You know, they loved climbing to the end of the pole, loved going up the rig, loved doing it. I don't mind doing it. I've done it before, just not really my cup of tea. These guys just live for it.
Well,
I'd rather
I
be the
have
guy in the back holding the backstay, sipping my tea.
I have two friends, Owen Miller and Allie, that are my two favorite four deck union
Uh-huh.
members as friends. So
Yeah, yeah. Some
I'm in good company.
Yeah, you're all nuts. I'm gonna tell you that. Okay. Um, so, what kind of advice do you have for new people that are getting in? That want to get into sailing. Do you have any new advice or any good advice
Well,
for them?
um, don't just get on the boat for the mere sake of sailing. Get on the boat to be a part of the team, and that really does mean getting out and doing crew parties and getting doing the wax on, wax off sort of thing, the grunt work. Um, yeah, it it's not fun to just leave one person to putting the boat together, taking the boat apart, and just showing up to go sailing. It really is when you're a part of the team, you're really a part of the team, and that includes all roles that you can be in.
Right. All right. Where do you see this sailing going after the pandemic's over? Do you see it picking
Oh
back
my
up?
God.
Have you heard anything? What do you know?
Well, I'm sitting in my truck in Bert Jaben's yacht yard, and I'm looking around me, seeing that 90% of my customers are still on the hard, still awaiting bottom paint. Um, and I just got a text message from Bruce Gollison's wife. He's on J70 Midlife Crisis. They're out. Their home yacht club is San Diego Yacht Club, and they've canceled all regatta activities until Labor Day.
Yeah. Wow.
So, um, with me being self-employed, my last paycheck was, and I don't really want to go too far into this, but my last paycheck was Bacardi Cup.
Yeah.
And filing for unemployment, I had to justify, well, can you prove that your work has been canceled? Yeah, 14 of my major regattas have been either canceled or postponed till next year. So this pandemic has really hurt the sailing industry. Boating in general has
Yeah.
really hurt. I talked to John Middleton with Catalina Sales here in Annapolis just about a half hour ago. The biggest question is whether they're going to have the fall boat show.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
You know, we,
I
the country's kind of divided on open up or stay closed. I know California just yesterday or a couple days ago decided to stay shut down for another 6 months or something, or three. I don't know. It seems like forever. When all this starts back up, nobody knows, and I think there's. I don't know, but I think that sailing's going to kind of have a little explosion for a little while. To be honest, personally, I think that everybody's been cooped up, not able to sail, not able to do anything. As soon as they lift that ban, the yacht club, the hoist is going to be busy.
Well, so here in Maryland, Governor Hogan said a week ago recreational boating was open, but there were all kinds of little bullet points that only members of your family can go out on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And they specified no boat racing. And somebody within their administration, I hate to say it like this, was really smart, because when you have 8 people on a J111, 6 of them are hip to hip. It's really hard to social distance on a racing sailboat.
Yep. So they have a sailor in their midst at least. Yep. Okay. But you know what? I think I'm getting close to the end of all my questions.
My best dive is the Vandenberg.
The Vandenberg, yeah. Well, I talked to you about this. Your questions are a little different than most of my sailors because you do more diving than you do. All right, it's your best dive, the Vandenberg. What is the Vandenberg? Tell us something about
the USS Vandenberg is a really huge ship. It's 100 feet to the top of the towers, and probably one of my favorite dives. My worst dive, which is your next question, is anywhere on Ego Alley here in Annapolis.
What is
any
Ego?
kind of a search and recovery.
What is Ego Alley?
Oh, Ego Alley is that small strip of water that goes into downtown Annapolis, the city dock.
Yeah.
It's opposite. It's where Pussers and the city dock is.
Across from Severn, right? Yeah.
So I got this call to do a search and recovery for this poor guy's lower dentures. He sneezed and they went overboard. I saw that.
Yeah, and, almost sneezed and laughed on that one. That was bad.
Yeah. Right. Unfortunately, there's like a mile of silt.
Yeah.
And no visibility. So it's a go down on your weighted tether. And unfortunately, this is where I realized that the bottom of Ego Alley is coated with plastic Pussers cups.
Oh.
So I came up with 28 plastic Pussers cups, but no dentures.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So where's the Vandenberg that you dove on?
Oh, that's Key West.
Oh, see, I haven't been. I mean, I've got a driver's license, but I've never really been diving other than get my license. I got it so I can refill my tanks and clean my bottom. I don't dive. I just clean my bottom. Right. I want to be able to go down 6-7 feet and hang out for an hour. That's all I do. So
the Vandenberg, researching before going, it doesn't have a good track record with divers. On average, 2 to 3 divers a month die on the USS Vandenberg. And it's because it is an advanced dive, and typically medical conditions surface at 100 feet. And a lot of air embolisms, a lot of really good competent divers make small mistakes or just unrealized medical conditions, and that's the unfortunate to the sport. It is high risk.
Yeah. Yep. I can imagine. You seen a bunch of sharks? You seen anything wild? What's the strangest thing you've seen while diving?
Well, I learned where eels feel they are most protected.
And where is that?
I had a customer that wanted me to clean his swing keel on his 30-foot boat, 30-ish foot boat. And so he's up on the boat cranking down the swing keel, and I'm down under the keel waiting for the swing keel to come down. It was stuck, so I shook it, and it released, and this huge pod of American eels fell right down on top of me. Eels in my book are just snakes, and I came up and out of that water. I hit the bottom of the boat. I hit everything on the way out of the water. And the dock was about 4 feet from the water. I shot straight up out of the water and landed on the dock. My customer was bent over laughing.
I can imagine.
I wasn't so amused.
Yeah, no. You can keep your eels.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Yep, nope.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so that's a funny one. All right. Anything else? You seen anything else strange? I know you do. I know you pick up cell phones and glasses and trash and all kind of things. You got to find something else down there that's unusual.
No. I've gotten several cinder blocks unwrapped from people's props, and occasionally you'll find people using cinder blocks as mooring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mooring
moorings.
balls. Yeah.
And yep, I've had to remove several cinder blocks from under people's boats. Other than that, really nothing surprises me anymore.
All right.
So.
Okay. Well, with that, do you have anything else to add to this lovely little video I coerced you into on a lovely afternoon?
No, I just awaiting for enough customers to be in the water to be able to start my job. So here doing a little rigging job for one of the teams that I sail with. So,
Yeah. You know, it's funny, you know, most people are out of work or not working or, you know, can't work or whatever. I know a lot of sailors are kind of in the same boat. Me, I just started doing fiberglass work because just kind of, you know, make the ends meet. And I'm already so booked I can't see straight. I've got more boats than I know what to do with. I keep telling them, don't bring them, don't bring your boats. I can't move, I can't walk around the boats I've got. You know, I don't know what to do. So
I'm taking this quarantine opportunity to get my real estate license.
there you go.
So if you're in Maryland and you want to buy or sell a house, let me know.
Or if you need a bottom cleaned, there you go.
Or if you need your bottom cleaned or your boat cleaned.
Yep. Okay. Well, yep. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, Marlene. Everybody, this is Marlene Plumley and Arundel Dive Services. I hope I pronounced that right. Excellent diver. Yeah, she's at all the regattas. You can find her online. Find her on, I think she's got websites, Facebook. I don't know. You can find her pretty much at every major regatta all around the country, especially where small keel boats are, J70s, Mudge 24s, you know, J boats, things like that. So look her up. Have her be your boat mom.
It's aadiveservices.com. I'm on both Facebook and the web and all that other fun stuff.
Yep. Okay. Well, with that, everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe. I need the likes. I need the subscribers. The more of those I get, the better this thing goes. So, all right. With that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. With that, I'm out of here. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Mwah.